Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and before we get started on tonight's story, I'm going to tell you about today's sponsor. And that is, once again, the very wonderful, the very delicious HelloFresh. HelloFresh recipes feature produce that goes from the farm to your front door in under a week, which means their spring menu features the season's freshest flavors. Me personally, I constantly want to eat things that are, good, in addition to also making things that are not going to completely kill my budget for the month. And HelloFresh is up to 72% cheaper than dining at a restaurant. And one good thing that I know that I'm concerned about, and I really hope you are as well, HelloFresh cuts down on your food waste by at least 25% as compared to grocery shopping, meaning more sustainability and less strain on the environment. If all these things seem appealing to you, or if you're just watching me cook and this is making you hungry, then go to HelloFresh.com and use Creepypasta16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. That's HelloFresh.com and use code Creepypasta16. And now the dinner is cooked for my family. It is on to tonight's story. We never restored contact with the colony on the surface of Europa. Sable and I prepped the shuttles, finishing up just as the ship settled into orbit above the settlement. An eerie sense of foreboding flooded the decks of the ship. I knew I wasn't the only one to feel it, as I could see the same strange discomfort in every other crew member. Although Sable and I were the only two who had worked on prepping the landing vessels as we approached, I noticed that the strange crates that had been loaded just before the landing crew departed. Hey, whoa, wait. Did you see that? See what? Did you load those unmarked crates? The ones that were blank except for the interdimensional symbol? No shit. Were we supposed to? They were already loaded. I didn't load them. If you didn't either, then how the hell did I just see them on the landers before they left? I said, baffled. There was nothing further we could do at this point, nothing but watch as the shuttles left the ship's dock and left towards the surface of the planet. My heart suddenly began pounding in my chest as if there was some impending doom that the rest of my body had yet to notice. I did my best to slow my heart and think about all the strange events of the past week. I did everything possible to find something that might explain the surge of fear that screamed and raged within my body. Finally, as a cut to the screaming, Sable called out with a great idea. I don't know who moved those crates on the landers, or why the landing crew was acting so strange and hush-hush about loading up and leaving, but I think we should head back to the bridge. Maybe they restored the communications of the colony. At least we have communications with the landing party, we can find out what's going on. Without verbally answering, I simply nodded, and we both left for the bridge. The lengthy walk it took us to get up there gave me ample time to overthink all the things that might be going on. My brain embellished every thought from power system upgrades to full-scale alien invasions to covert military ops. I didn't know what any of it meant, or if any of it meant anything at all. When we finally reached the bridge, our understanding of the situation was hardly illuminated further than the guessing that we had already done. The shuttles remained silent during their approach, other than standard pilot system callouts. Then I heard something I wasn't expecting, which raised alarms in my mind. Officer Blevins, system status, please, said Captain Dreyer. Officer Seth Blevins was a pilot in charge of the entire landing party. He was a good man. He started his career in the military, and you could see much of that still lingering in his personality when he worked. When he was off duty, however, he was entertaining to spend time with. It was a bit of a practical joker trying to keep things around him lighthearted. System status normal, sir, Seth responded over the radio. Something strange happening on the cargo, though. Please advise. Explain further, officer. What do you mean by strange? Sir, I'm not sure how to explain this without sounding like I lost my grip on reality. I've oddly marked cargo on here that's beginning to hum louder the closer we get to the surface. It's also begun to glow brighter and brighter through the cracks in the wood. Captain, please advise. What am I carrying? How dangerous is it? Call it a morbid fascination, but I desired heavily to be able to see what was going on within the shuttle. Of course, I feared for the safety of Officer Blevins, but my curiosity about what he was seeing was quickly surpassing my concern. Sorry, officer, that's classified information. Your job is to simply get it to the surface, assist the colony however needed. Officer Novanilla aboard Shuttle 2 will offload the cargo and proceed with his directives. I couldn't help but shoot Sable a look, trying to convey some semblance of, I told you something was up with the crates. But I knew there was something he was already aware of. The look he returned to me was just as effective as if he had said out loud, yeah, no shit. Officer Marco Novinello was a 30-something-year-old guy they got along with very well. I had more than a few handfuls of interactions with him, and although he was very secretive about his personal life, he was very enlightening to talk with. He was very confident and knowledgeable on many topics. At no point during our acquaintanceships did I get even a hint that he would be involved in any secret operations. Understood, sir. All 3 shuttles are approaching Europa colony now. Switching comms to attempt to hail colonists. Officer Blevins' voice echoed through the speaker one last time before they landed. The bridge fell silent as everyone sat waiting for the next voice to come through the speakers. Everyone knew there was nothing we could do at that point, except wait. The call might come in any moment. There was no way to tell. It could be 30 minutes or 3 days, or the most stressful option was that we didn't know if it would ever come back. After a few short moments that felt like an eternity, one of the crew broke through the deafening silence that crept over the bridge. Sir, I've lost all forms of tracking on the shuttle. It's like they just vaporized from existence. What do you mean? You better figure out how to get it back. Okay, sir, I'll see what I can do, but I don't think the problem lies with this equipment. I believe it's on the shuttle's end. As the tension on the bridge rose, so did my anxiety. I began to beg inside of my head for something to break. I selfishly wished for something to fall apart and give me an excuse to go and do anything else. Instead, Sable nudged me in the ribs, which was annoying, but albeit an effective way to get my attention. Only for him to ask me the same questions I was prepared to ask him. What do we do next? While I contemplated my existence, some critical conversation had been happening on the bridge. I only know because as soon as I came back to reality, I was getting yelled at by the captain, having been told what I would be doing next. John, prep the other shuttle. You're going down there. What? Oh, no. I love my job, but I love it more like a, hey, go clean the toilets, not a go investigate the sound of certain death. John, shut up and get on the fucking shuttle. Sable began to tell me to be careful when Captain Dryer interrupted him. You'll be careful too. Your ass is going with him. Sable's smirk quickly faded and was replaced by a silent but visibly apparent groan. Then, as the two of us left the bridge, a crewman began to shout, Captain, scanners picked up 2 shuttles headed our way. One of them is ours, and the other is from the surface. Good. Can you pull them on the screen? No, Captain, I've been trying. There's no response. Captain, another shuttle appeared on the screen. We now have 6 shuttles headed our way. Sable and I never quite made it off the bridge. The sudden excitement held us both in place at the doorway. Far too curious about what was going on, we stood watching everything unfold. A quick look of fear and panic flashed over Captain Dryer's face. It only remained visible for a split second before returning to his typical confident demeanor. John, Sable, change of plans. Get in the dock ahead of the shuttles. Sable responded faster than I could. He told the captain, we'd be happy to, before dragging me by the shoulder away from the bridge. We hurried down the hall silently towards the docking bays. Once we had made it nearly 3/4 of the way there, I couldn't contain myself any longer and had to speak. Dude, doesn't something feel extremely off to you? Nothing about this feels right. Yeah, no shit, John. There's some very serious shit going down right now, but of course it doesn't feel right. None of this should feel right. We watched out the giant bay door through the invisible plasma door that held back the harshness of open space. The first 3 shuttles approached slowly but awkwardly, almost as if whoever was flying it was intoxicated to some extent. Shit, look out! Sable yelled just as the first shuttle sped through the barrier. Sable pushed me out of the way and dove just barely in time to avoid getting crushed as the shuttle slammed into the dock. The second and third shuttles sped into the bay, crashing against the back wall as if mimicking the first shuttle. Sparks flew, chunks of metal shot through the air, and the insanely loud sound of bending and scraping steel filled the area. Scrambling to my feet, I looked over the wreckage that nearly killed both Sable and me. My comlink chirped, and Captain Dryer's voice immediately screamed through the small handheld device. What the actual fuck is going on down there? Before I could answer, one of the shuttle doors opened, and 2 colonists stumbled out. There was something wrong with them. Beyond the wounds sustained from the crash, they looked severely disfigured and bloodied. My mouth hung agape as my brain sparked and smoked, and ground gears trying to process everything happening as fast as possible. The 2 colonists spotted me and began to shuffle toward me. Just before I turned to Sable, a dark silhouette emerged from the shuttle behind them and suddenly seemed to phase from existence. With my brain overheating, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, I wasn't entirely sure if what I had seen had truly happened or not. "Look out!" Sable yelled from behind me. His warning only made a split second before the following 2 shuttles burst through the barrier and crashed behind the first 3. 2 of the shuttles smashed the 2 colonists in front of me, rendering them into nothing more than red streaks of blood and a faint memory. I turned and sped as fast as my legs would carry me towards Sable and the main door to exit the docking bay. As I covered half the distance between myself and the door, the final shuttle slammed into the wall directly behind us. Chunks of metal flew through the air, and 2 spots on my back suddenly burned and flooded my body with pain. Some piece of the shuttle tagged Sable in the right shoulder, causing him to spin and trip over his own feet. As he turned and tripped, the look on Sable's face seemed to shift suddenly from surprise to sheer terror. He hit the ground just inside the doorway, and in as few motions as I could manage, I grabbed him by the arm and dragged him through. As soon as he cleared the door, I smashed my hand into the controls, slamming and locking the door. As we sat there, catching our breath, Sable's comlink chirped, causing me to realize that I had apparently thrown mine as the shuttle took the 2 colonists. Even with my adrenaline at full throttle, I could feel the pain set in as I thought the back of my shirt began to seem wet. Sable's shoulder was bleeding profusely, and a massive chunk of shuttle protruded from the wound. It looked deep. Very severe. "What's happening down there? We have damage reports flooding our control panels up here," Captain Dreyer yelled through the comlink. "Captain, all 6 of the shuttles crashed into our docking bay. It's like they didn't even try to slow down. I'm not..." "Oh, god damn it!" Sable winced in pain and yelled out, causing him to stop mid-sentence. I took the comlink from him and began to explain as best as I could. What we had just witnessed still had my mind going full tilt, trying to make sense of it. "Captain, something's wrong with the colonists. They look deformed or mutated or something like that. I don't know if any survivors are still in there or not. Sable and I are alive, but we both sustained severe injuries. The door is shut and locked, and we're going to try to get ourselves to medbay before we both bleed out." "Have either of you come in contact with anything unusual down there?" asked the captain. I was truly dumbfounded at the captain's ridiculous question, which caused me to leave a pause before answering. "Anything strange? Are you fucking serious? Nothing down here is normal. All this is unusual and quite honestly, fucked up. I'm sending security down there. I'm putting the 2 of you getting to medbay as the highest priority. Anyone in your area should rush you and help you there. The medical officer is also on her way to meet you to start patching you up." The captain continued talking, but I missed anything else that he said, as I currently watched a strange creature phase into existence nearly 80 yards from us. It had a body similar to a salamander. Its skin was black and appeared wet or slimy. It had 8 thin, ribbon-like legs that extended not in any form of foot, but instead was tipped with long, bony blades. The long, slimy tail was lined on top and sides with 3 rows of bone-made blades or curved spikes, starting from the bottom of the beast's torso and running the length of its tail. If the creature had eyes on its playing card-shaped head, it was either too far to see, or the same abyssal black color as the creature's skin. The beast turned towards us and raised its head, revealing a sarlacc pit-style mouth. It was perfectly circular and lined with sharp yellowed teeth, sticking out in all directions. It looked like the mouth of a lamprey had been taken, enlarged, and slightly distorted, and then placed on the nightmare that stood before us. The beast turned away from us, took a few steps before fading out of visibility. What the fuck was that? Did you see that thing?" I shouted as I began to lift Sable onto his feet. "What was what?" "You didn't see that thing, the thing that just phased in and out down the hallway." "Sorry, I'm busy trying to keep blood inside my body. Speaking of which, we need the doctor, preferably before I bleed out." Even when faced with possible death, Sable had the ability to remain the same calm smartass that he always was. Regardless of his joking tone, I knew that the danger was very much real, and I immediately began walking him as best as I could down the hall. All the while, warnings and caution screamed through my head. I still had no idea what to make of what I had seen. The only thing I knew about the creature was that it in no way appeared even remotely friendly. The medical officer, Dr. Julia Skorin, finally met us in the hallway after traversing 3/4 of the journey to medbay. She immediately used a small handheld device that used some laser or something over both of our wounds. Before we went any further, I don't know if it actually did anything to heal the wounds, but I do know that whatever the little device did caused any bleeding to stop instantly. When we finally made it to medbay, Dr. Scorin helped me lay Sable face down on a table attached to some giant machines. She did something with her little handheld scanner device, and Sable instantly fell asleep. I realized that it was some form of full unconscious anesthetic. She typed a few things into the console panel, and the table slid inside the machine. I watched as a set of robotic arms began removing the large chunk of metal from his shoulder. Once the shuttle part was released, the arm changed to a different tip and began synthetically rebuilding Sable's muscle and skin tissue. That wound was nasty. It'll probably take a few hours for the machine to finish, Dr. Scorin said before starting to work on my wound. Lay down on your stomach, over here. I walked over and laid down, but before I could ask any questions or really say anything, Dr. Scorin used her little handheld device on me, and the world around me went black. I never expected to dream under anesthesia, but strange and beautiful visions emerged through the darkness. Dreams of a family that I had not yet met, dreams of worlds I had never seen and people I had never known. A world populated by little more than endless seas of mushrooms, planets covered in infinite music festivals, and insane centipede-like monsters creeping slowly through a foreign jungle. Then came the screams. Faint sirens and alarms began to alter my thoughts. Distant screams and cries of terror invaded my psyche. My eyes fluttered open, revealing a destroyed room. Faint sirens and alarms began to alter my thoughts. Distant screams and cries of terror invaded my psyche. My eyes fluttered open, revealing a destroyed room. Alarms sounding throughout the ship, flickering lights in Sable's face, yelling at me to get the fuck up. Finally, after a few moments of being completely disoriented, my brain caught up with what I saw. Once he saw that I was more or less awake, Sable grabbed me by the arm and began leading me off the table and out of the medbay. I stopped Sable as we reached the doorway to leave. Dude, what the fuck is going on? I don't know. I woke up about 2 minutes before I woke you. Whatever it is, it's bad. The creature I had seen in the hallway flashed in my mind, and my heart began to race. What had all happened while the two of us were knocked out? Pulsating red lights glowed in every room and hallway throughout the ship as the red alert siren continuously sounded. As the two of us entered the hallway, I could see various access panels on the walls had been ripped off, and sparks shot periodically into the hall. Sable, I'm with you, man. Of course I am. But what's our plan? I don't know. My first thought is to get to the bridge and find the captain, so I guess that's the plan. Okay, I'm for it. Let's get moving. Sable nodded at me, and we both went silent, creeping low and slow through the hallway towards the bridge. There was no signs of any other crew that I could see. The ship felt abandoned, which made it feel like we had been forgotten and left behind. However, as we rounded the corner of the hall, my theory changed to something more sinister. 2 bodies lay in our path. One was about 10 feet away from us. The other was much farther down the hall. At first glance, I saw no blood or wounds of any kind. However, I was immediately proven wrong, as her face and a massive, nearly perfectly circular hole covered most of her chest. It almost appeared as though all her organs had been sucked from her body, leaving nothing but a gaping hole and an empty chest cavity. Holy shit. Who the hell could have done this? Sable asked. The mouth of the creature flashed in my mind, and I knew it had to have been the cause. I knew that it was precisely what could have done this. I wanted to explain to him the monster that I had seen, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get the words to leave my lips. In response to my silence and probably worried look on my face, Sable simply motioned with his head for us to keep moving. As we traversed the primarily empty halls towards the bridge, we came across an increasing number of crew laying around with similar if not the same wounds. The anxiety I harbored began to skyrocket as I thought about what we might manage to walk into. I had no idea what all the beasts were capable of, let alone where it came from, or even how many of them there were. Furthermore, I had no idea how long the two of us had been unconscious. If it had only been a few hours, then an incredible amount of damage and destruction had occurred in a very short amount of time. Walking through the door to the bridge painted a very horrific scene of the predicament that we found ourselves in. All but 4 of the crewmen were huddled together, dead in the corner of the bridge. The other 4 seemed to have been killed closer to the doorway. Looking out the main window, I pointed and did my best to get Sable's attention. However, I could only manage one word for what I saw. Fuck. The view before us clearly showed that the ship was on a collision course with the moon. We had either fallen out of orbit or were intentionally placed on the path. I looked at Sable as he looked at me. Both had very wide eyes of oh shit looks on our face. Dude, we gotta... I started but quickly was interrupted. John. Sable, is that you? Said a very hoarse but still recognizable voice. Captain, where are you? Sable responded as he moved towards the corner where the bodies were. After moving some of the bodies out of the way, we saw the captain. He lay there bleeding profusely, missing his entire left arm and a good chunk of his shoulder. He gasped as he struggled to keep breathing. A look of shock was all I could muster as we knelt down next to our dying leader. We should have never messed with it, said Captain Dreyer through the pain and labored breathing. Look what we caused. What is it? How did it get on the ship? I asked. I just did as instructed, spattered the captain. We're gonna crash into Europa. How can we change course? Asked Sable. Must crash. Can't let free. I'm sorry. The captain's eyes glazed over as his final words and breath left his body. I couldn't say that I was pleased with the very little information we were given. I also did not possess the ability to bring people back from the dead to get more answers. My mind raced with as many options as I could think of. Sadly, that only left me with two thoughts. We could go down with the ship hoping we didn't get eaten before we crashed. The other option was taking one of the escape pods and wishing we could survive until it dropped us off at whatever programmed destination it was set for. While I was thinking, Sable had already made the decision. We gotta move. Escape pod, now, he said. Without a word, I stood and began following him off the bridge. Throwing caution to the wind, we hurried and recklessly made our way to the escape pod area. Only a handful of pods were gone, meaning there was a good chance the creature or creatures had wiped nearly all of the ship's crew. As we reached the first available pod, the two of us stopped dead in our tracks. A shimmer of light sparkled ahead of us for a second before this apparent interdimensional being phased into our dimension. My heart sank and I could feel myself begin to panic. The door to the pod opened, and the beast quickly phased back out of sight. I ran into the pod and turned around for Sable just in time to see the creature reappear and pounce on him right in front of me. I reached out for him, screaming for my best friend, as tears filled my eyes. With one hand still grasping onto the door hatch, the beast bit down on his leg, pulling him back from the pod. Sable cried out in pain as the creature's teeth sank into his flesh. Choking back the pain as best as he could, Sable said nothing but gave me a look that told me everything in his final moments. I can save you! Give me your hand! I yelled through tears, not wanting to admit the inevitable. Instead of taking my hand, Sable simply forced a smile, slammed his other hand on the control panel, and let go of the doorframe. As the door began to shut. Through the last sliver of the open door, I watched as Sable became entirely enveloped by the creature. The blood began to flow from beneath the strange alien. I screamed out in anguish as tears welled rapidly in my eyes. I instantly realized I just watched my best friend from over a decade get slaughtered right before my eyes. I watched him sacrifice himself to let me escape. I'd never be able to tell him thank you, or goodbye, or anything. Never again. The pod ejected the second the door was sealed. I was shot out into open space. The pod automatically adjusted its course and rocketed towards who knows where. I sat for days, drifting through space, unsure where the escape pod was going. But it doesn't matter. Knowing what I now know and seeing what I've seen, I'll never be the same. Nothing will ever be the same. I have no way to communicate with anyone, have no communications array. Nothing but pre-programmed distress signals were sent out in all directions. Some hope someone would find the pod and save me. Space, however, is vast. I've come to terms with knowing that I probably won't get rescued before I die. Beyond my solitary drift into the void of space, my only worried thoughts is not being able to warn anyone of what happened, and I fear it's already too late. If anyone out there ever hears this, I'm sorry. We didn't know. Hey guys, I just want to make sure that all of you take a look in the description down below for multiple different reasons. The main reason I'm talking about right now, though, is to look at the author's links. Every time that I do a story on one of these platforms, I post links from the authors. Some of them are books that the authors put out. If you like the stories that you hear, then I highly, highly encourage you to go scroll down, take a look in the description, click one of those links. If you like that author, I guarantee you they have something else that you're going to like. And if they have a book out there, you're going to love that book. I mean, hell, that's how Tales from the Gas Station became what it is, okay? If you guys heard it on YouTube, then hey, there are more, bigger, better versions of it out there that you can get on Amazon or Audible or No Sleep or what have you. So for reals, scroll down, check out the links. And that's not like an advertisement thing. I'm just like, look, this is for your benefit. Check it out. And as always, I want to give a very big thank you to everybody who supports me on Patreon. Thank you so much. A very big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Stephanie Butler, Reaper61167, Bobby Karman, Tristan Pelton, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, Thiccy McQuicky, SamaHigh, CrusaderChocobo, SpookyShel, Atomaurus, Grand Moth the Milky, Big Smoke 369, Captain Scurvy, SaltyIrishPoet, Estebean, Brayden Morris, Nate Kuhl, HorrorFan1212, Hour Minute Second Time, Kyle Reznak, David Martin, scare-ington the unkempt, Robert Malcolm, Angelus, Spanky, Snoochie Boochie, Seclude, Lupita Galvin, That Creepy Chick, Tyler Fletcher, Merxenum, Red Shadow Cat, Xavier the Cheyenne, Demix, Sean Cadieu-baker, 6 Gay Rats in a Trenchcoat, Turtleman, Rob Like Sharp Things, Cryolinian, Xavier Graphius, Lord Life's Best, Goring Tramagacy, Maria Walker, Emily Mitchell, Crazy Kid, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Eka Limchok, Dirt Diver 030, Matt Bach, Voice of Sand, Coffee Zombie, Hidden Tiger, Shelly J, Jeremy H, Psychomel, Nana, Deleted Account, Melted Lake, Tali Sue, William King, Darth Miver, Michael Ortiz, Satanic Aries, Bardo Hawk 764, Lambda M98, Harley, Sashi Suzaku, Cronut 509, Kaylee Ambrose, Suji Campbell, Stricken, Freddy Krueger, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Benjamin Welvert, Cryptic Nightmares, Kiri the Sloth, Fester's Lampshade, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, Raphael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kenshin. As always, thank you guys so much, because you guys help me do everything that I do here. You guys help pay authors for stories and commission stories and do everything that I can do to make this channel and make this podcast the best it could possibly be. So thank you all for supporting me here. And as always, everyone, sweet dreams.